Good morning. Please rise in body or voice and let's sing Spirit of Life, hymn 123. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarianism, Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. Together, we care for the church and for each other.
I dream of our coming together in circles, driven not by love, but by lust for a working tomorrow. The flights of this journey, mapless, uncertain, and necessary as water. And these are the words of Audre Lorde, read by Reverend Bill Sinkford at the opening worship at General Assembly 2022. Welcome to everyone in the sanctuary and out there in the Netherlands, wherever you are. We are a church that welcomes everyone, no matter how tall you are or short or any other bodily description or anything. Come join us. We are a community of individuals who come together for the community because a community makes us stronger. And as you might know, Reverend Mitra Jafarzadeh is on sabbatical. And we have a part-time sabbatical minister in Alice Jafarz. All right. Reverend, sorry. I also messed that part up too. In Reverend, and I was there at her, I was there on Zoom at her ordination. Reverend Alice Diebel is with us as a sabbatical interim, and she is fulfilling many of Mitra's duties. If anyone in the congregation here or out in Zoom land has any needs, just either text, call her on her phone or by her email, and she will respond. And those are in the order of service. Now, our next hymn is number 318, We Would Be One.
have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
You all sound good. Please join in the affirmation. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. We'll begin our joys and concerns. If you're at home online, I invite you to put your joy or sorrow in the chat, and we will try to capture those. Edie is placing another stone, one for joys and sorrows that lie deeply held in our hearts, things that we're not quite ready to talk about yet. We light the lamp to illuminate the spirit of life that we have. Thank you. I do have a sorrow. This is from Lori Hayes. Rita's Aunt Betty passed away a few days ago at 99 years of age. We're grateful to have visited her in Oregon this past spring, and we're hoping to attend her 100th birthday party in 2023. And a joy from Lori also. Emmy's volleyball team won all 3 games yesterday. And best of all, her friend Paige finally found her strength and scored 5 points with her new active serve. And if you're out there, Lori, people are clapping. Thank you. Will you join me, please, in a spirit of prayer or meditation? Living Spirit that moves among us and within us, we're grateful for the time together, in person and online, times to share what's deep within us. The sorrows of passing, the illnesses we face, the relationships we love or struggle with. We're also aware of the larger community around us, the hurricanes affecting Puerto Rico, all the way up the East Coast, and more to come. We want to recognize that Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish holiday, starts this evening. It's a time of awe and reflection on our creation. Sometimes creation is a tempest, and sometimes it's beauty. Let us carry ourselves forward in community as we make big choices. In the name of all that is holy, amen.
This reading is by Howard Thurman, and it was also read at the General Assembly this year in June. In the quietness of this place, surrounded by the all-pervading presence of the holy, my heart whispers, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in good times or in tempests, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. Now please stand as you are able, and we will sing hymn 1028, Fire of Commitment.
Hands and hearts and spirits into faith
Howard Thurman muses, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in good times or in tempests I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. Friends, we have had some tempests, haven't we? More than 2 years of a global pandemic, protests erupting over the murder of George Floyd, a January 6th insurrection at the US Capitol, mass shootings occurring nearly every day, it seems, trans rights, voting rights, immigrants' rights, women's rights, and the Supreme Court. Say what? It's a lot. Loss, anger, and fear are a really tough combination. And yet, I hope we're moving through it. The pandemic is still present, but vaccines are widely available. Numbers are coming down. U.S. House hearings on the insurrection may be changing the trajectory toward authoritarianism, away from authoritarianism. Finally, some modest gun legislation passed. One positive piece of evidence that things might be moving, at least pandemic-wise, was that my partner Bob and I could actually attend the Unitarian Universalist Association General Assembly, known as GA, in Portland, Oregon this year, in person. So we were there with a couple thousand UUs. That felt really good. We decided to make a road trip out of it. And so we drove across the country. It took a long time, but it was a great opportunity to see a bit of the country and to see what's happening in these times. So we traveled through these beautiful rolling green hills in eastern Kansas, up into the rocky snow-capped peaks of Colorado, up into Wyoming where the rocks are red and the landscape changed from green to red to tan, and into the Oregon lush green valley. I couldn't help but think, wow, this is a beautiful country. I wish the people were as beautiful. When I think things like that, I really have to pause and keep fresh before me my highest resolve. My belief in people and in the goodness we humans can create if we commit to it is my high resolve. When we were traveling, we were looking for signs of the impact of the pandemic. It seemed most visible in the small towns with boarded up stores and closed restaurants. But cities were affected too. Portland is a case in point. We had been there in 2015, and we saw it as this vibrant city with cool stores and restaurants and people everywhere. But now, lots of boarded up buildings, graffiti on every structure. I mean, it's really quite astounding. And many, many, many people without houses, living in tents, absolutely everywhere. I mean, and I'm literally meaning everywhere, under every bridge, every open field, every parking lot, even outside the UU church in the center of the city. It's a big problem. So we could see that things are changing rapidly in our country, making it crucial. This is a crucial time to remember what is our high resolve. I think we're coming out of the tempest, but that means we're at a threshold and we need to choose what direction we're going to go. How will we as a nation deal with these big issues? Homelessness, economy, racism, all the rest. And this threshold is true for church as well as every other aspect of our nation. When we're on the threshold of a significant choice, what will we choose? What will we do to consider our choices? How will we meet this moment? The theme of General Assembly was Meet the Moment, Reimagining Radical Faith Community. Certainly that points to the times we're facing as a nation. Our UUA president, the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, spoke of the rise of racism, violence, and authoritarianism in our nation. She asks, who will we be in this moment? Who will we be called to be? What will we do as a people of faith to meet the moment and the upheaval we see around us? What commitments will we make, and how will we rise to meet them? How do UUs get through them together as community? I think it is really important, especially now, to reflect on who we are and where we want to go as we face this threshold of change. And part of that work is to think about how we express what we're about with our words and our deeds. For the UUs, the who we are part is expressed in our principles and purposes. And if you're new here, those are in the front of the hymnal. As I see it, this assembly was about two big ideas. And these big ideas might move us towards some response to that question of who we are: liberation and inclusion. These ideas were best expressed, in my opinion, in a workshop at GA about Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman was the mystic and theologian of the 1950s, colleague of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., part of the civil rights movement. And these two big ideas were highlighted in that talk, but you could see them throughout General Assembly: liberation and inclusion. These ideas came out in worship, in general sessions, in workshops, basically in everything we did there. Inclusion is evident in the many gender-neutral restrooms, spaces made available for wheelchairs and scooters, sign language interpreters, closed captions, the way speakers introduced themselves by describing what they look like for people who are visually impaired. Every effort was made to share pronouns, and yet our right relations observers said, when we stand up and declare that I'm a white, female, middle-aged, older, whatever, female, if I say I'm cisgender, that puts pressure on trans people to out themselves when they might not want to. So pronouns, that's all we need. Anyway, these fears and hurts are shared publicly at General Assembly so we can all learn from our mistakes. Isn't it a signature of the inclusive community to do all it can to welcome everyone in, as Edie pointed out this morning? As best we can, we welcome all. Don't we say we do that? So there are those within our movement, though, who think all these efforts are political correctness or wokeism and that it is all too much. They see it as a distraction from what they care about. It can be tedious. I know I'm constantly making mistakes. But there's an organized group that believes these efforts at inclusion are being pressed on us by our leaders and not being decided democratically. President Gray said there's resistance among us to anti-racism work. Some in this group believe that we should split the faith and that this movement toward liberation and inclusion is being done undemocratically. They have the mindset that it's being pushed on us from above. That has not been my experience. What I have experienced is the UUA actively centering the experiences of people who face oppressions by seeking and listening to the stories they tell us. When people who face oppression are not in the majority, what should the majority do to live up to our values and respect the experiences we hear and make appropriate and necessary change? Is that our highest resolve? Now, I really don't face much oppression in my life, except for being female, maybe some ageism. In my white skin, I've never been assumed to be a porter and asked to carry someone's luggage. This happened to a minister at a General Assembly some years back. As an able-bodied person, I can walk far, I can sit where I want. As someone who is cisgender, I don't need to pause and wonder which bathroom I can use or if I'll be harassed if I enter the wrong one. No one calls me sir. And as a middle-class person, I don't have to worry too much about the cost of traveling across the country for an assembly and staying in a hotel. Since I don't experience these things directly, I have to learn about the challenges people face based on their identities by listening closely to what they tell me. Without hearing about it, I might never think about it. All these considerations of inclusion are drawn from the people affected, from the grassroots, and they are tightly linked to ideas about liberation. As Thurman's theology considers liberation and inclusion. So just imagine how liberating it would be to feel fully included without question. But then also imagine how fatiguing and stressful it would be to face an unwelcoming community day in and day out, never knowing what you might face in a store or how an organization is going to treat you, hearing the garbage on the radio and cable TV that diminishes your humanity over and over. And it's bigger than that. Think about all the dehumanizing, anti-trans legislation, anti-critical race theory rhetoric pushed to an oppressive extreme, including book banning. All the political decisions being made that codify oppression need to be dismantled for the liberation of us all, but especially for the disinherited, which is a term Thurman would use. Thurman, according to the workshop, tells the story of his growing up in Jim Crow South, Daytona Beach, Florida. One story he vividly remembers is that of a young white girl he was with in school. She pokes him hard with a hairpin. Of course he cries out, "Ouch!" But she says to him, "But Howard, you don't feel pain." Well, it's a story he recounts often because it demonstrates how people did not see his humanity. He was seen as worth less than white people, not whole in other people's eyes. He woke up to his own oppression. He went on to be the minister at the Church of the Fellowship of All People in San Francisco, which was the first interracial and interreligious experiment in this country. So it says. Well, how does a church get to that vision? By keeping in mind their high resolve. GA was engaging us at this threshold, at this moment, to help shape our language and thinking as expressed in our purposes and principles, the statements of who we are and what we're about. All right, a little bit of history. Principles and purposes is shorthand for a section of our UU bylaws called Article 2. This section of the bylaws has 4 parts: the purpose of the association, a statement of inclusion, our principles and sources that are in the front of your book, and our statement of freedom of belief. And Article 2, according to the bylaws, has to be reviewed and renewed every 15 years. Our principles are not handed down on stone tablets from up high. There's no council in Nicaea telling us what to believe. We are a living tradition. 15 years ago, when they were reviewed, we only changed the statement of inclusion. The rest remained the same as they had for 30 years. Well, actually 45 years, but who counts? The Article 2 Commission has been at work for over a year engaging UUs in a variety of ways. There have been discussion groups in congregations, member surveys to fill out, videos to explain what's going on, and more. This stuff is not decided at the top. And I encourage you to go to the website for uua.org and look for it. It's there. I have been very inspired by the way the Commission facilitated our engagement of the principles and purposes. We had discussions and time to think about big ideas during the assembly, and they engaged all the participants in this conversation. And we could use approaches like this for when issues come up at St. John's, too. First, we would hear a deep theological perspective, our high resolve. Then we were encouraged to talk in small groups, respond to some questions. Then we had time to think on our own and respond to some form online to collect all that information. Bob and I had some amazing conversations about these questions. One of those conversations was about covenant. What holds us together? What promise do we make to each other? We're not held together by a creed. That has long been clear. That's foundational in our freedom of belief clause in Article 2. We don't have to recite the creed with our fingers crossed behind our backs. This non-creedal stance may seem simple, but it's not. It's telling us to take stock, to think and talk and decide democratically who we are. And our congregational delegates are the ones who in 2023 will look at the first draft and have some discussion and vote on it. And then it's still not decided until 2024, where the delegates will vote on the final version. It's decided by us. And just like our nation, our association is on this threshold, trying to get us to talk together, to figure out our purpose, what holds us together, and what we covenant to be or do. The UUA is encouraging the congregations to help name what matters, and in the end, it will be done democratically. And that's also a challenge, right? Do the majority of UUs want to see liberation and inclusion? Does the majority want to move to dismantle oppression and build beloved community? In the end, we're not deciding a creed, and no individual congregation or individual person has to say, I believe this. That's that freedom of belief, right? But what we do decide is to covenant, to affirm and promote these principles. So think about this congregation. As I think about who we are as a faith community, I have this vision of a beautiful interracial, interfaith community like Thurman had. I see us organizing and contributing to social action efforts for collective liberation. I see us working hard to dismantle oppression whenever and wherever we see it. I also know we're a community of care. We're vulnerable. We have pain, and we need to be nurtured in the space of loss and pain, especially coming out of a pandemic. We also need to be enlightened and inspired. I see us raising our voices and singing. We have joy. I see us sharing a casserole at a potluck dinner. I see all these things. But that first thing, working for collective liberation and dismantling oppression, those things are big, not impossible, especially if we work with partners, as you all do. You have a beautiful network of partners in this congregation, and I hope we don't shrink from this vision as we have in the past as an association. The Reverend Bill Sinkford, a former UUA president, spoke at the General Assembly opening worship, and he has been with the denomination since the beginning in 1961, when Unitarianism and Universalism merged. He was also there when the denomination erupted in anger and division over the misnamed Black empowerment controversy in the 60s, and he even left the denomination over that issue. Lots of Black members left, and most did not come back. Most never came back, but he eventually did. He witnessed us back away from our commitments again when we were not living up to our goal to hire a diverse workforce at the UUA, leading to a hiring controversy that nearly broke us apart. Again, people left. And he's witnessing us now, becoming divided over our commitment to liberating language about dismantling oppressive systems. And again, people want us to split. You see, a majority can hold us back. It's easy for people in comfortable circumstances to play the long game and prevent change by doing nothing when people are actually suffering in real time. What do we do with that? Sinkford calls on us not to shrink from the vision of beloved community before us. We need to be steadfast and have courage at this threshold in this moment. How are we doing the work of church, those major components: worship, fellowship, justice, work, education? With what future in mind do we do these things? Is our highly resolve deeply held in our bones as we do the work of church? Is that always in the forefront? We don't have to be grand or big in size, but we can be thoughtful about who we are and what we represent. And you are, I know, I hope you see it. Celebrate your gifts. How we do our work and who we partner with really matters. Who else is working out there in ways to build beloved community? Who should we join? Who should we partner with to stop anti-trans, racist, anti-immigrant, and other oppressive tendencies in our legislation, courts, school districts, even our libraries? It can be overwhelming to think about adding justice work when it's hard enough to get our building repaired. We are at a moment in which your clear vision matters and our principles need to be strong. How do we deal with our own internal conflicts? With love and high resolve? How can we work together with kindness and sensitivity? Sensitivity, that's the other thing that Thurman talks about that I haven't yet mentioned. So Howard Thurman is said to have had a theology of sensitivity. What he means is that in our lives as a people of faith, we are sensitive to the needs of others. And to avoid being overwhelmed, we need to be sensitive to our own inner worlds as well. He saw a clear connection between spirituality and social change. One newspaper article described him as the apostle of sensitiveness. He wrote these words for the Ware lecture that he delivered at the General Assembly in 1956. He wrote, "It is as if the American continent were selected as one big school in which lessons in human relations needful for survival could be learned by heart and mind. From such a school would come thousands of tutors, scattering themselves to the ends of the earth, quieting the tears and anxieties, and giving to persons who suddenly find themselves exposed to unknown neighbors the techniques and skills for peaceful living. Now school is out, and every person who has been exposed to this training is by exposure an accredited apostle of sensitiveness." How do we become apostles of sensitiveness for liberation and inclusion scattered across this beautiful landscape of many colors? It's pretty darn hard if we're at each other's throats, trying to divide from within. May we be in community and welcome diversity among us. May we foster spiritual growth and nurture our inner lives so we have the strength and vision to move forward. May we build a beloved community and manifest love in the wider world. We you use are those tutors, apostles of sensitivity, scattered to the ends of the earth, calming anxieties, quieting tears, giving to unknown neighbors the way of peace and love. We have so many gifts. We're a thoughtful people. Let us live our lives with sensitivity toward collective liberation and build an inclusive, beloved community wherever we are. May it be so. We will now pause for the offering. Thank you, Peng Cheng. I invite the choir forward. This last hymn has got the choir as backup singers for all of you. This is Life Calls Us On. I learned this at General Assembly several years ago. You have an insert in your bulletin and the words will be on the screen.
So I will be singing throughout with you all, okay? So if you're like, not sure what I'm supposed to be singing, just sing what I'm singing, okay? And you should have the words there. Hopefully you can see them up there, right? But we're going to go along, and the choir is going to be doing something else, and I'm going to be waving my arm, and hopefully we all come together. It'll be great, though. But here's what I love to say. Often when I start singing a song, I get caught up in the music, and I'm like, yeah, this feels great. And sometimes I get worried about which note I'm singing and which note I'm not singing and which one I was supposed to be singing. But look at these words and feel the words and sing what you feel. And it will be fantastic. I think you'll all really love it. Sing it loud, sing it out. Will you all see me better if you're standing or if you're sitting? Everybody rise, please. Here we go. Gospel swing. Feel it. Here in reverence now we gather for the blessings we have known, with a pledge to one another that we journey not alone. Joy and sorrow make us rise into all that lives and dies, upholds us on, upholds us on. Words and deeds of those before us waken here to keep us strong. When our voices in the chorus of creation's living song, courage bids us lift our eyes upward to the shining skies. Hope calls us on. Hope calls us on. Loyal guides in love and duty, lead us with a trusted love. Blessed are they whose inward beauty shows the path of truth and lies. Honor is their earthly prize. By their works we realize faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. We have shared a radiant hour when the truth has made us free. And the Spirit's gracious power dreamed of
Wow, you sound great. Thank you, choir and Rob and all. We have a few announcements. Looks like there's a surprise announcement coming up right now. Come on.
Sorry. We all know punctuality is my thing, right? Okay, so anyway, I am here to talk about the Out of the Darkness Walk, which benefits the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And primarily, they support those who have been affected by suicide, either those who have lost a loved one or those who have struggled themselves. They were a big part of making the 988 crisis line happen. And I mean, suicide doesn't get talked about a whole lot, but I just looked up random stats today, and there's 130 suicides every day. That's crazy. So we are trying to help, and we're doing a great job. Let me tell you all, out of 143 teams, what place do you think we're in? 8th, those that saw us on Facebook yesterday. 8th place in sign language. How awesome is that? And I'll just mention that we are $27 behind number 7. Just saying. Right now we have 8 members of the team, and I'd love you to register. I know registering is more difficult than it should be. So if you can, great, you can register even if you're not walking, because you guys are doing your duty as members of this church and voting for or against the congregational meeting that we're going to be having on October 9th. But even if you're not walking, you can still register to be a member, or you can be one of the, add to our number of 21 donations, ranging from $5 to $250, so whatever works for you. I mean, if you feel like 1,000 is good, that's fine too. We are currently at 57% of our goal of $2,500, so we currently have $1,433. And I will not be here next week because I will be giving the shelter a well-deserved day off after their 10th anniversary at Cincinnati State. Come watch bunny bowling and guinea pig races. So any questions, Kaya and I will help you register out there, and I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. What did I say about partnering with people? You can do good things. Speaking of the vote coming up, right, there's a congregational meeting and discussion this afternoon, right after the service, I think 12:30 maybe, is that right? Whoever's leading that, 12:30? And it's going to be important. It's talking about building renovations, so please stay. I believe there's a different Zoom number to log into. Hopefully you have all that information. Our flowers on the altar today are given by Lynn O'Brien in honor of her biological mother, Betty's birthday. Thank you, Lynn. Reminder, you all love coffee. It's time to sign up. There's a new sign-up sheet right outside Kroll Pfeiffer. Please help us out. Also on Tuesday at 7 o'clock in our Kroll Pfeiffer Fellowship Hall, at 7 there will be a social justice conversation. This is an opportunity to come together and learn more about what we are all doing and how to do it together. Also, Rita Volz has been promising brats and mets and veggie burgers and cider for a year now, and it's finally going to happen next Sunday as we celebrate St. John's German heritage after the service with a party. I believe Mike is grilling. Yeah, he nods sheepishly. Also, the First Partner Church, you know, our partner church in Transylvania, Lunch for the year will be October 16th. There's a sign-up sheet next week. Please be thinking about what soup, bread, or dessert you might provide or what help you can provide. Boy, not only do we partner locally, but we partner internationally. I think I got all the announcements. Apologies if I missed one. Words again from Howard Thurman to close us out. Let thy light burn in me that I may from this moment take effective steps within my own powers to live up to the light and courageously to pay for the kind of world I so deeply desire. Amen. Go in peace. Stay for the meeting.